Marcus, a 23-year-old black man, lives in a big city with big dreams but tough living conditions. He works hard every day, taking on 2 jobs at a manufacturing plant, operating machines and cleaning. The work is hard and his toxic boss takes out his frustration and anger on Marcus. Despite this, Marcus perseveres in his work, waking up at 5 a.m. and barely getting any rest. One day after a hard day's work, Marcus goes to the bus stop to go home. When he sees the bus coming, he quickly hops on. Luckily, he finds an empty seat. Evening buses are always crowded, and Marcus feels lucky to have found a seat. He sits down, exhausted and sore all over, leaning back to enjoy the short rest. While the bus is moving, Marcus begins to think about his life. He knew he couldn't keep up with such a job for long, he would just burn out. The bus slowed down to pick up a new passenger, and an old lady got on. She looked very weak and unsteady on her feet. She moved slowly from the door onto the bus, and when she saw that all the seats were taken, she leaned against the window frame, clearly very uncomfortable but had no choice. No one on the bus was kind enough to give her a seat. In this city, everyone only cared about themselves. Marcus looked up and noticed the old lady's struggle. He immediately felt pity and called out, "Ma'am, you can sit in my seat." The old lady was shocked at first, not believing that anyone in this city could be so kind and considerate. She smiled and limped over to Marcus's seat. He helped her sit down while he stood the rest of the way. 3 minutes later, Marcus arrived at his bus stop and called out to the driver to slow down as he got off the bus. The old woman's weak hands grabbed his coat, and he turned around in surprise. The old woman stuffed a piece of paper into his pocket, which he didn't have time to ask about. The other passengers pushed Marcus off the bus and it sped away. He thought to himself, perhaps it was a thank you note. Marcus pulled the paper out and saw what was scribbled on it. On one side was a street address, and on the other were 5 numbers written like a code. When put together, it read 5, Queen Street code 88687. This really confused Marcus. He tried to understand it, but it didn't make any sense. After thinking for a moment, he folded the paper, put it in his pocket, and went home. He really needed a break more than anything. When he got home, Marcus took a quick shower and tried to rest, but no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't sleep. He was still thinking about the old lady and the note. It was clearly an address, but could the address be a trap? That night, he couldn't sleep and kept tossing and turning thinking about the next day. Marcus took the bus hoping to see the old lady and ask about the note, but she was nowhere to be found. He hoped to see her after work that evening, but she was nowhere to be found. Marcus was frustrated and his confusion deepened as he wondered what message she was trying to convey. He couldn't forget the note and spent the next 2 days thinking deeply about it. His curiosity was at its peak, so he decided to go to the address on his day off. He was always off on Fridays and usually used them to do laundry, but this Friday Marcus decided to go to the address and see for himself. He didn't want to risk his life by walking straight into a trap. He boarded the same bus as the old woman and headed to that address. It took 35 minutes before the bus reached its destination. When Marcus got off the bus, he couldn't find any houses around the area. The only thing he found was a large, creepy estate surrounded by gardens and trees. The whole area was quiet and felt very natural. Marcus looked around to study the environment for any signs of danger. When he was satisfied that he was safe, he walked towards the large gate and knocked, but there was no response. Marcus looked at the gate and noticed the control panel near the central locking. When he opened it, he saw a small screen with a keypad that required him to enter a security code. Marcus wondered what the security code could be until he realized that the code was a 5-digit number on a piece of paper. He pulled out the paper and entered the code. Immediately, the gate opened and Marcus entered the large complex. He headed towards the mansion at the end of the road, hoping to find the root of the mystery. When he reached the front door, Marcus knocked but got no response. He pushed the door open and entered the large living room. To his surprise, he saw the old lady he had met on the bus sitting on the sofa with a bright smile. She invited him to sit and introduced herself as Vivian. She thanked Marcus for helping her on the bus and explained that she needed a caregiver. Vivian was ill and at nearly 70, she could barely do anything around the house. Her health was deteriorating and she needed a caregiver. She had hired many caregivers, but most of them either stole from her or got bored and left. Vivian felt that Marcus was a kind and trustworthy soul. She offered Marcus a job as her caregiver for 6 times his current salary. Marcus, after thinking it over, accepted the offer. He knew that this was a much better opportunity than his current job and he had liked Vivian since they first met. Marcus's duties included preparing Vivian's breakfast, making sure she took her medication on time, preparing her bath, doing the laundry and cleaning the house. After a day's work, Marcus would often sit down and watch his favorite TV show. Vivian was a great storyteller. She often told Marcus stories about her past, memories of her youth, her successes and failures. Marcus enjoyed listening to Vivian's stories. He felt he learned a lot from her wisdom. Gradually, the relationship between Marcus and Vivian became closer. Marcus considered taking care of Vivian not just a job but also his responsibility. He was always polite and kind, never complaining. One day, Vivian became weak and had to be hospitalized. Marcus called an ambulance and stayed with her throughout her stay. She was given 4 fluids and the doctors prescribed some medicine for her. Marcus was glad that he had arrived in time and was there for her when she needed him. When Vivian woke up, she thanked Marcus again. She was discharged that evening and they returned home. Marcus prepared dinner for her and helped her to bed. Still, the morning incident left him traumatized, and he decided to go back to sleep to make sure nothing bad happened again. A few minutes after midnight, Marcus was awakened by a strange sound. He got up to check on Vivian, but found her still fast asleep. Marcus returned to his room, but heard the sound again. It sounded like someone was picking a lock, and Marcus was worried but tried to dismiss the thought. The fence was high enough to keep out intruders, and the gate was password locked, making it difficult to break in. Marcus lay down on the bed and fell asleep, but a few minutes later he was awakened by a shrill scream. He jumped out of bed and ran into Vivian's room. There, he saw a horrifying scene. A masked man pointed a gun at Vivian, demanding money and jewelry. Marcus acted quickly, disarming the intruder and knocking him to the floor. The intruder was not ready to give up. He pulled out a small knife and stabbed Marcus. Marcus was injured but still tried to fight back. The intruder fled when Vivian called the police. Marcus was taken to the hospital in critical condition. Vivian stayed by his bedside, showing unwavering loyalty. Doctors bandaged his wounds and cared for him until he recovered. When Marcus was discharged, Vivian asked him to rest for a few days before returning to work. However, Marcus did not want to leave her alone. He returned to work and continued to care for Vivian. They had many conversations and Vivian learned about Marcus's family. She learned that Marcus' mother had leukemia and needed a bone marrow transfusion, but they did not have enough money. Hearing this, Vivian reassured Marcus that everything would be fine. He was young and had a bright future, and should not worry too much. Over the next month, Vivian's health declined dramatically. Marcus stayed by her side, praying and urging her to be strong. However, one morning, the monitor stopped beeping and the doctor confirmed that Vivian had passed away. Marcus fell into shock and was motionless for several minutes. He could not believe that Vivian, who had become such an important part of his life, was gone. Her passing left a huge void in Marcus's heart. He cried a lot, his eyes were stinging and his voice was hoarse. He returned home and could not sleep, continuing to wish that life was not so cruel. A week later, Vivian was buried in a cemetery. Marcus stared at the gravestone one last time, silently saying, "You will always be in my heart." He returned home and made plans to find a new job. A few weeks later, Marcus heard a knock on the door. 3 men in expensive suits stood outside his house, introducing themselves as Vivian's lawyers. They announced that Vivian had willed all of her assets and business investments to Marcus. Marcus couldn't believe his ears, but after reviewing the documents, he realized it was true. Vivian was a millionaire and had left Marcus all of her wealth. Now Marcus was a millionaire and could afford his mother's surgery. His kindness and compassion had brought him wealth for a lifetime. Marcus became a millionaire with the huge amount of money from Vivian's assets and investments. He could not only pay for his mother's surgery but also change the lives of many others. Immediately after receiving the good news from the lawyer, Marcus planned to use this money wisely and meaningfully. First, he spent part of the money to buy a new house for his mother and sister, ensuring they had a comfortable and fulfilling life. Marcus' mother was very touched and happy to see her son grown up and able to take care of the family. Her health concerns were also resolved when she received the necessary surgery. Marcus did not forget his old friends and colleagues at the factory. He returned and gave them valuable gifts, and also set up a support fund to help workers in difficult circumstances. This created a wave of emotion and gratitude from those who worked with him. In addition, Marcus decided to set up a charity in Vivian's name, in memory and gratitude to her. The fund focuses on helping the elderly, especially those who live alone and need care. Marcus wants to bring them the warmth and care that Vivian once received from him. He believes that this is the best way to preserve Vivian's memory and continue to spread her kindness. The Vivian Charity Fund quickly attracted attention and support from the community. Marcus spent a lot of time participating in the fund's activities, from visiting the elderly to organizing fundraising events. He felt happy and satisfied when he saw others receiving the same help and care that Vivian had received. During this time, Marcus continued to learn and develop himself. He took courses on financial management and investment to manage his assets effectively. Through hard work and determination, Marcus not only maintained but also grew his fortune, creating many job opportunities and investing in social projects. One day, while Marcus was attending a charity event, he met a woman named Sarah. Sarah was a passionate and dedicated person to charity work. She was impressed by Marcus's story and how he turned his pain into motivation to help others. They quickly became friends and began to collaborate on many charity projects. As time passed, the feelings between Marcus and Sarah gradually blossomed. Both had the same goals and ideals. They felt happy working together and sharing meaningful moments. Marcus realized that his life had changed not only financially but also spiritually. He no longer felt lonely and lost, but instead felt happy and fulfilled. When they decided to get married, Marcus and Sarah held a simple but meaningful wedding. They invited their loved ones and friends to celebrate this new chapter in their lives. Their wedding was not only a joyous occasion but also an opportunity to raise funds for the Vivian Foundation. Instead of wedding gifts, they encouraged their guests to donate to the foundation so that it can continue to help those in need. After their wedding, Marcus and Sarah continued their charity work with passion and enthusiasm. They expanded the foundation, partnering with many other organizations to create larger and more impactful projects. They are constantly looking for new ways to help the community and make the world a better place. Over the years, Marcus and Sarah have built a happy family with 2 children. They have taught their children the value of kindness and sharing, hoping that they will follow in their footsteps. Marcus looks back on his journey and feels proud of what he has achieved. From a young man struggling in a factory to a successful and happy man, Marcus' life changed completely with just one small act, giving up his seat on the bus. Marcus never forgot the valuable lesson from Vivian: kindness and sharing can create miraculous changes. He knows that life is always full of challenges, but with perseverance and kindness, all difficulties can be overcome. Marcus always keeps in his heart the memory of Vivian and the memorable days with her. That fateful meeting not only changed Marcus' life but also spread goodness to many others, making their lives more meaningful. With the huge fortune from Vivian, Marcus did not stop at helping his family and the surrounding community. He began to expand his vision and invest in various business and social projects, with the goal of creating a long-term positive impact. First, Marcus founded a green technology startup. He recognized the importance of protecting the environment and decided to invest in sustainable solutions such as solar energy, recycling and waste reduction. His company quickly grew and became one of the leading companies in this field. Marcus not only made a profit but also helped to minimize the negative impact on the environment. In parallel with his business, Marcus continued to expand the activities of the Vivian charity. He cooperated with NGOs and other businesses to develop projects that bring long-term benefits to the community. One of the typical projects was to build care centers for the elderly and orphans. These centers not only provided housing and medical care but also created a learning and development environment for children, giving them the opportunity to build a brighter future. Not stopping there, Marcus also invested in education. He understood that education was the key to changing lives and escaping poverty. Marcus established scholarships for poor students and funded schools in disadvantaged areas. He also built community libraries and vocational training centers, giving people the opportunity to learn and improve their skills. One day, at a press conference about charity projects, Marcus met a man named David. David was a medical research scientist and had a promising project in developing cancer treatments. However, David's project was facing financial difficulties and needed support to continue the research. Marcus was immediately attracted to David's project and decided to invest in it. He not only provided funding but also used his connections and influence to connect David with other experts and investors. David's project quickly progressed and achieved encouraging results. This not only helps save many patients but also opens up new directions in medicine. Throughout his journey, Marcus has continued to learn and develop himself. He has participated in seminars, courses and forums to improve his knowledge and skills. Marcus has also become a famous speaker, sharing his story and experiences to inspire others. He always emphasizes the importance of kindness, sharing and perseverance in all circumstances. One of the most important lessons Marcus shared is, kindness is not just a single action but a way of life. When we live with kindness and sharing, we not only change our lives but also spread goodness to those around us. Marcus' life has become meaningful and fulfilling. He knows that his success comes not only from luck but also from hard work and determination. Marcus always remembers Vivian and what she taught him. He knows that all the good things he does come from a small act, giving up his seat on the bus. This proves that kindness can create miraculous changes and spread further than we think. Looking back on his journey, Marcus feels proud and grateful. He has not only achieved financial success but also built a meaningful and happy life. Marcus hopes that his story will continue to inspire many others, encouraging them to live with kindness and sharing, to create a better world. The fateful encounter with the old lady on the bus completely changed Marcus' life. From a young man struggling in the factory, Marcus has become a millionaire and a leader with great influence in the community. His journey is a testament to the power of kindness and sharing, showing that small actions can create miraculous changes. If you have ever given up your seat to someone in need, please share your story in the comments. We hope you enjoyed this story. Don't forget to turn on notifications for more videos.